This is Mark Miller, and you're watching the Fightlete Report.
Alright, welcome to this month's edition of the Fightlete Report here today in November. We're going to go over a lot of great fights that happened in this month of October to November. A lot of great fights this fall. We're going to look at UFC 106, Fedor Ortiz versus Griffin, and we're also going to take a look at UFC 105 on Spike TV. Welcome to the Fightlete Report. I'm Sean Len. This is Clyde Adu. Nice to meet you. And looking back at UFC 104, what an event that was.
It was a pretty good event. You know, the main event was obviously well hyped. You know, Machida and Shogun, I can't get much better than that. You know, and I know it was a controversial pay-per-view, but personally, I think it delivered. I know I'm in the minority on that, but I think that if nothing else, it was interesting. You can't say it wasn't interesting.
I agree. It was definitely a big effort put out forward by UFC after two underwhelming cards back to back. It started off with a bang. Anthony Johnson came out. He beat Yoshiyuki Yoshida in the first round, 41 seconds. In the first round, amazing knockout. Way to start the fight. Unfortunately, he did not make weight.
Yeah, that was the big controversy going into the fight. He didn't make weight, but I don't think that's to discredit the victory, and more importantly, I don't think that's to discredit what he's done, what he's accomplished so far in his mixed martial arts career. And,
right.
And I think he has a lot of potential. I think he's a sleeper. I don't think he's been given that many opportunities. He's the type of guy who always seems to open the show, or be in one of the undercard belts, And he has good showings constantly. He has good performances, but he doesn't really get any good, strong opponents. That's going to change when he faces Josh Koscheck, but up until that point, he hasn't really had any big challenges, and I think that's a shame because I think he has a lot of potential.
Yeah, big fight with Koscheck in the latter part of November. And let's hope he makes weight this time because he did miss out on a.
Well, if he doesn't make weight this time, it's going to be a problem. You can't miss weight. I don't care who you are. You miss weight twice in a row, it's going to be a problem.
Yeah, and he would have won the knockout of the night bonus.
Yeah, that's too bad.
Moving forward, Cain Velasquez, Ben Rothwell. What a good fight that was.
That was a good fight. I mean, I don't even know what to really make of Ben Rothwell. I mean, on one hand, he had little to no offense, but on the other hand, the guy could take a punch.
Definitely.
He got hit. I lost count. I mean, I thought there was so many points in that fight where I thought it was over.
Yeah.
And to my dismay, he just would not get knocked out. And even when the fight did eventually end, he was still trying to say, I want to keep going. And
at the point in the fight where I knew it was over is when he just kept taking repeated blows. However, if he would have tried to put a hand up to cover those blows, the fight may have continued. But then he was actually holding his arm to keep balance, just to stand up. But you gotta give it to Velasquez. Great ability.
Velasquez. I mean, Velasquez, he just totally. He out-wrestled him. He out-striked him. He dominated the fight.
Yeah.
I don't think it's controversial. I mean, yeah, he wasn't knocked out, but at that point in the fight, he wasn't showing anything. So I think Velasquez earned the victory.
Yeah, really executed his wrestling pedigree at its finest, and I'm looking forward to him facing.
He's definitely a threat. Velasquez is definitely a threat to Brock Lesnar, to the World Heavyweight Championship. I think you gotta look out for this guy.
Yeah, his first true test will be on the ground. Will be a deadly opponent in Nogueira. He'll be taking on Nogueira in January sometime.
That's gonna be good.
And Nogueira is very deadly off his back. That's the one point where you can take Nogueira down. Doesn't mean you have him beaten. You can punish him as much as you want. He can weather any storm and come back and submit you. We saw him do that against
That's another guy. And it's I think Velasquez is going from one tough opponent to another because Rothwell can take a punch and so can Nogueira. Nogueira is known for having a very hard head, being almost impossible to knock out. So I think Velasquez has two challenges as far as getting a knockout because there's two tough guys in a row he's going up against.
All right, we'll look at the main event next. Lyoto Machida versus Shogun.
Yeah.
Very entertaining fight.
I thought it was a good fight. I thought it was very unpredictable. I thought it was a battle of wits.
Definitely. Shogun came with a great game plan, kept Machida at bay, brutal leg kicks, almost crippled the champion. Certain points it looked like in the fight. I didn't quite give him the stinky leg, but he was working him.
Yeah. That's pretty much what the fight to me came down to, and that's where the controversy lies. I mean, Shogun didn't necessarily dominate, and he didn't get a lot of strikes to the face or whatever the case may be. But at the same time, he got so many leg kicks to the point where between rounds, Machida had to get his legs iced up. His thighs were so red at that point. That was, to me, that was the story of the fight, the leg kicks. And I think for that reason, I think Shogun should have won, but
yeah,
you know, what are you gonna do?
And also, you gotta look at those ribs that were injured.
Yeah, the rib. Machida claims that wasn't as bad as it looked. He was honest in the press conference afterwards. He said, "Look, yeah, my legs really were bothering me, but the rib cage wasn't as bad as it looked." That's what he said.
This was definitely the best Shogun we've seen so far in the UFC. Really came out and really performed at his peak. However, it's disappointing he didn't get the victory. He didn't do enough to win the fight in the judges' scorecards. But in the fans' mind, and you know, a lot of the critics' of MMA point of view, he is the uncrowned champion. He did.
I don't know if I would go that far. I mean, I think he did earn the victory. I think in that fight, Shogun straight up just rose to the occasion. That's when I see that fight, I think there's a guy who's like rising to the occasion. He knows this is a rare opportunity. He's worked hard to earn that opportunity. I think that he did everything he could. He had a good, sound strategy, and he performed that strategy to perfection. I guess it wasn't enough. I guess to defeat the champion, you have to, I guess, have a little bit more tangible offense. Yeah. That's the only thing I can think of. I think leg kicks might not have been tangible enough for the judges.
True, because Machida, his accuracy and his strikes, even though they were few and far between, really were precise. Really connected with Shogun. Not enough to knock him out, but he had the more impactful strikes in this fight.
Machida wasn't a bum. I mean, he got outfought, but he wasn't totally lost at the same time. I think he looked respectable.
Well, I can't wait to see what happens if they have a rematch in the future.
It's gonna be a rematch. You know.
And Shogun very impressive in this fight. I mean, first guy in two fights against Machida where he wasn't knocked out in the first round. All right, we're gonna move on and look at the main event of WC 44, which happened last October. Two great lightweights, rising lightweights in the WC, Don Cerrone and Ben Henderson. They put it all on the line for the interim lightweight title. Went to 5 rounds. Very entertaining fight. You look at the fight, Cerrone, you know, he said this before in his interviews, that it takes him a while to start up the fight, you know, to really get into it. He's a slow starter. But in the first round, it seemed like he had Ben Henderson in a headlock. I mean, almost made him tap out to a guillotine choke. And then, but then when Ben Henderson, you know, he couldn't establish his wrestling as well as he's used to doing with other opponents. In fact, what he did do is Cerrone had such a magnificent guard, a guard that couldn't be beaten. So most of the fight, Henderson kept it standing, you know, took his shots, and it came down to the wire in the 5th round. Ben Henderson was in several sick positions, Kimura and also Americana holds that were on his arm, and somehow he did not tap out to retain the decision, to become the interim lightweight champion. A very close call, again, very controversial.
That's the tale of a fighter.
Yeah, and also he had a lot of problems after the fight. He had fatiguing problems, needed to get liquids in his body, and could not make the post-fight conference. But Ben Henderson showed that he belongs in the top of the WEC lightweight division, and he'll be taking on Jamie Varner to be the undisputed lightweight champion of WEC.
He earned it.
And we also know on that card, Uriah Faber's coming back as well. He'll be taking on Rafael Assunção, a great rising featherweight as well. So a lot of stuff to look forward to at WEC in the near future.